YouTube, what's going on? It's Juan Gotti here with another Washington Commanders video, and in today's video, I have a very special guest joining the show today. Baltimore Ravens YouTuber and Graven Vids joined the show, and before you guys get into that, I want to give you a little bit of an intro of what you guys are about to hear. So I conducted an interview featuring my guy Engraven Vids as we talked a little bit about the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens upcoming matchup, as we really didn't touch a lot on that game per se, just because it's the preseason finale, so it wasn't really much to talk about as far as that game itself, just because it's not going to be a bunch of starters playing. Yes, they have the 22-23 game win streak on the line for the preseason, so we touched a little bit about that, but we really talked about how he feels about his Baltimore Ravens going into the season. We talked about Lamar Jackson, where he's at with his contract situation. How does he feel about the weapons around him? And all of that. Now, the only thing that I kind of regret that we didn't talk about was Kyle Hamilton. But I'm sure I'll chop it out with my man Engraven again at some point, and we'll be able to talk about how he feels about Kyle Hamilton. So yeah, there you have it. That's a quick little rundown of what you guys are about to hear. It's not a video, it's kind of a podcast post, so if you're on the go, you can just listen to it like that. But without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. On the road to 5,000 subscribers, hit that like button and subscribe to Engraven Vids. His channel will be down below in the description, and enjoy the interview between Juan Gotti and Engraven Vids. YouTube, what's going on? It's Juan Gotti here with another Washington Commanders video, and in today's video, I'm coming on here with a very special guest, the pioneer of the team. Keep it clean, Mr. Engraven Viz. How you doing this morning?
Hey, that was a nice intro. I'm good though, man. I'm doing real good. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you for taking time out your day to join the show. Now, before we get into it, I always like to let my guests give a little background information on their selves and their channel. So, why did you start your channel, and how did you come up with Team Keep It Clean?
Oh man, I actually started my channel from originally playing Madden. Cause I used to do Madden videos like a long time ago, and I just one day just did a video after one of the Ravens games, and I was like, you know what? Let me try to talk about the Ravens and see how it goes. So I did it, and I liked it. And then over time, I just started liking talking about football a lot more than playing Madden. Playing Madden for the videos, and Madden just I still love Madden. I still play Madden, but I just couldn't record Madden anymore and have fun with it. So when I play Madden offline, I still have fun, but I just couldn't do it for YouTube anymore because it just wasn't fun. So that was that. Started just talking Ravens, and then it went from there. And as far as Team Keep It Clean, that actually started from Madden too, because I used to be on Xbox a lot playing it, and it used to be in like the Xbox parties and whatnot.
Yeah.
And like all my people knew, like they knew, like if somebody came into the party and they were like cursing or something like they'd be like, no, hey, you got to keep it clean, you got to keep it clean. So that just stuck with me from there. And it's not even just about cursing or nothing. It's just more so about just lifestyle, man. Just and just about respect, and with the channel especially, it's family friendly, so everybody is welcome. Because I would never want anybody to feel like, oh, if they watching a video or something, and say for instance it's somebody younger, I don't want them to feel like, all right, if their parents walk in the room, they got to turn it down because somebody's saying all kind of crazy stuff on there. Or even on the flip side, for parents, I wouldn't want the parents to feel like, all right, if the kid walk in the room, then we gotta change it, we gotta turn it off, turn it down, or something like that. No, it's welcome for everybody, people of all ages. So that's what Team Keep It Clean is, man.
Yeah, and I watching the videos, man. I love the movement, and not even just again the lifestyle, and also the production of your channel, man. It's amazing. The work that you put into it is great, man. So, I appreciate your work, man, and I love watching. Now, I want to ask this question. I always do when I talk to a Ravens fan. So, the Ravens, right? Okay, the Ravens and Merlin, and about 45 minutes to an hour the other direction. The Washington
Mm-hmm.
Commanders are there too. So,
Mm-hmm.
why did you choose the Ravens instead of the Commanders? I don't know if the Commanders were ever an option for you or not, but why
Oh,
the
they sure were, man. And that you know what? But before I was really into football like that,
right.
that was actually my team.
Okay.
And that was a super long time ago. But then once I started like really getting into football, and my uncle, he had season tickets for the Ravens. He's had season tickets for a while now.
Mm.
But he took me to my first Ravens game, and I just fell in love, and that was a wrap from there. Then I really started like paying attention to the Ravens a lot more, and then just getting more and more into it. And then it just grew from there. But for Commanders, I always had a nice little respect for Commanders, especially back in like the Mark Brunell days, the Lavernius Cole, Santana Moss, especially Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
Man, that was painful when that happened to him, man.
Mm-hmm.
Especially living in Miami. I remember when it came on the news that morning. I'm like, wow, I was just in shock, man. But and then like Clinton Portis and Chan Bailey, I used to keep up with them a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, man. And because they were fun, and my favorite games used to always be Ravens versus Washington. I used to love them games when them two would go against each other. Um, and it was just always fun. One of my favorite games was man, I forgot what year it was, but I remember Mark Brunell was a quarterback and Ed Reed had blitzed him. And Ed Reed sacked him, forced a fumble, and scooped up and scored on the fumble too. In that same game, he got a pick where Mark Brunell threw it to him, and it's just a fun game, man. But yeah, I still I don't check for them as much anymore. I mean, I know it's a lot of little drama going on, but yeah, it's all good though, man.
Well, even though this is my team and I love it, man, I'm just gonna say here now, even though it looks like we're on the up, you chose the right team from players, from coaching to the ownership. You chose the right team to stick around with, man, because man, I don't even want to get into our ownership. It's so much more deeper than football, man. But as far
Yeah.
as the Washington Commanders, now I hear that you said you live in Florida and whatnot. So along with the Baltimore Ravens, right? Anytime you get to come back to this area, what is your favorite thing as far as like coming back to, I guess, this area that you may not get down there in Florida?
Probably a
Okay.
carry out for sure. And yeah, just yeah, I say the carry out. That'd probably be my favorite thing. Just a lot of the food up there. I mean,
Mm,
the food is great down in Florida too.
right.
But yeah, that the food and I think too the walking.
Mm-hmm.
That's an underrated part of going up there, especially compared to down here, because up there you gotta walk. You got no choice but to. I remember just when we were up there last month, we went to the training camp and stuff for the Ravens,
Right.
and we were there for about a week, and we ate all this food. We ate so much food on the trip. So I'm thinking, all right, man, I'm gonna go back home. Probably done gained like 5, 6 pounds or something like that from all the food we eat up there. I stepped on the scale, didn't gain anything. In fact, I think I even lost a pound because
Right.
we were doing so much walking up there, and then it was hot too because it's obviously during the summer. But we did so much walk because you got to park and you gotta go, you gotta park. Parking is never close. Because we had to do parking in Baltimore, parking in DC, parking in Maryland, parking in Virginia. It ain't ever close. It's hardly ever close, and so you're gonna have to walk to your destination, man. So that was a underrated part of being up there, man. But I appreciated it though, because down here it's easy to just park somewhere and you'll be right there, so you ain't gotta walk as much. But yeah, that was it, man. I always love it up there though.
For sure, for sure. Ain't nothing like home, man. Even though
Mm-hmm.
you get away, it's still home, man. So let's get into the Ravens Commanders, man. Again, this game really doesn't hold any value. I mean, it's preseason and whatnot. Or maybe I should say it does for you guys. You got that
Mm-hmm.
undefeated streak going on. We'll get into that. But as far as like, the players and whatnot, I don't expect any of the starters to play.
No.
But for your first couple games of seeing the new Ravens this year, what has been a big excitement for you and maybe something that's been a little concerning?
Excitement definitely Isaiah Likely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tight end that the Ravens drafted from in Coastal Carolina, I think. But he used to be a receiver. Then he moved to tight end. And he been doing his thing. And it's been nice to see because I've been somebody that's been clamoring for significant weapons for Lamar Jackson. And me, I was somebody that preferred the proven receiver route. And I was hoping. I didn't think it was gonna happen, but I was hoping like some names that I had on my checklist before this offseason were DK Metcalf,
Mm-hmm.
was also Debo Samuel. And then another one, a little bonus one, was Scary Terry, man. I was
Oh
hoping, like, all
man.
right, maybe. But then all three of them end up getting contract extensions. So I said, okay, that's cool. It's all good. There's always next year for something. But anyway, Isaiah Likely, the tight end, he's a tight end, but he can move, man. He's quick. And I love how he plays. So that's been something that's been super exciting. Something that's concerning is really the offensive line. I mean, that's been a concern for like the past, whew, ever since 2020, really. With Ronnie Stanley being hurt, he got hurt in 2020, and just never really came back. He played 1 week into last year, 2021, played in week 1 and never played again since then. So he really ain't played football in like a year and a half. And he still hasn't even really like practiced this off season yet. So I would definitely say concern is offensive line.
Okay, now the positive, man, likely guys you talk about tight end. That's one thing about the Ravens, man. Along with just always having a dominant run game, you guys just always have these tight ends. I mean, Mark Andrews, even going back to Dennis Pitta, Hayden Hurst, and for a while people remember Darren Waller. I mean, imagine if Darren Waller panned out for you guys and you guys knew what he was going to be.
Yeah.
Darren Waller of today. So the tight end group is always just good for you guys, that running game. And yeah, the offensive line is a concern for you guys. Is it as a whole, or is it just one specific position on the line that you're really concerned about?
I'd probably say more so just the left side of the offensive line, because of the health of Ronnie Stanley, and then another thing too, the guy that's supposed to be filling in for him at left tackle is Jawan James. Ravens traded, they got him from the Broncos last year. They picked him up, and he hasn't played football in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there might be a little bit of injury concerns with him too. So just just really the left side of the offensive line. That's the biggest concern for me.
Okay, so anything like headed into this game that you're looking forward to seeing again? Like not really much of any starters will play. I think maybe for us, guys that aren't starters, but somebody that we thought would have a huge impact of tight end Cole Turner and some other guys that's been out the whole entire preseason and training camp. Really, they may play. But for you, is there anything that you want to see from, I guess, your depth pieces or someone that's fighting for a roster spot coming up into this game this Saturday?
Ravens just late last week, they signed Demarcus Robinson. He was a wide receiver, used to play for the Chiefs. Sort of big play guy. He ain't really get a bunch of yards, but he would. I mean, he got a lot of big plays against the Ravens over the years. But so we're very familiar with him. But he has signed with the Raiders this offseason, but he ended up being among the first round of cuts. So like, yikes. But Ravens signed him late last week, so he's going to be playing in the game on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I know he's going to be playing with backups, but still, I do want to see what he can do. I want to see what some of the undrafted rookie free agents can do, because people are still fighting for roster spots. And with the Ravens right now, there's a lot of uncertainty at the wide receiver position. A lot of it is because of health, but a lot of it is also because just waiting for somebody else to really step up. Rashad Bateman, Ravens first round draft pick for last year, he's been doing this thing. So he's expected to be Ravens like quote unquote number one receiver. But then after that, it's just like a lot of question marks. Prochet was expected to be another one of Ravens like quote unquote starting receivers, but he's hurt right now. Devin Duvernay is supposed to have an expanded role, but he's been kind of up and down, not really like breaking out like that. Well, in training camp and in he hasn't played in preseason, but in training camp, he just has been sort of like up and down. Um, so we just looking to see who's it gonna be, who's gonna be next up. Also, just really depth guys too, because this obviously gonna be a just a game about the depth. Since the starter's not gonna be out there, and can like with the Ravens offensive line, can they hold up in protection? And again, it is going to be depth guys, but this is a lot of people's last chance to show like why they deserve a roster spot. Because unfortunately, and this really goes for every preseason game. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys that are playing in this third preseason game, they're expected to be backups and even cuts. So these are a lot of people's last chance, not only on their current team, but really in the NFL. Because a lot of people after these roster cuts, they're not going to have another opportunity after this. But with the Ravens, just seeing the guys who are really going to establish themselves as good backups, and really try to hold down that roster spot. Because a 53-man roster, when you think about it, it sounds like a lot of spots, but it's really not. Especially when you break it down position by position, it is not that much room on the team. So it's a tough and important game for all these guys that are going to be in.
Yeah, man, and I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. But I want to talk about something that you brought up in that whole spill, the wide receiver position. Now, I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. I like Lamar Jackson. I mean, how can you not? I mean, the excitement that this guy brings, the kind of person that he is, and we all know, we watch your videos, man. The bad rep that he gets is just, it's terrible. Like, I don't understand how you can hate on a guy so much, and he's just a very, very good guy on and off the field. Um, Watching the Ravens from afar, obviously, I just never seen it. Just never seems like they put enough around him to be successful. Like, yes, you have a really, really good run game. I mean, you guys have running back for days. You have Mark Andrews, right? But you brought up the wide receiver position. It's like he's never had a true guy that he can depend on. I mean, you guys drafted Hollywood Brown, and you can touch on that as to why that's spoiled. But you guys drafted him in the first round a couple years ago to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't pan out. You're hoping Rashad Bateman can be that to James Prochet and Devin Duvernay. It just doesn't seem like there's enough for him at the wide receiver position to get it done. And I think obviously you guys could, win the North and possibly win a division game, but I don't see you guys being real like taking that extra step as far as winning a Super Bowl, just because I don't see enough at the wide receiver position. You talked about wanting like a DK Metcalf, so it's obviously there. Like, you guys know you need another guy. Um, how is that? Like, do you feel like that's a real concern as far as not being able to go deep into a playoff run just because you don't feel like there's enough around Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I feel like it's just been a Ravens philosophy type of thing. Because if we go back to right before Lamar Jackson, with Joe Flacco, the Ravens, they never really consistently provided him with quality weapons like that. Like you mentioned before, tight ends, that was always something that they were pretty good at. They signed Shannon Sharp after he played with the Broncos. They had Todd Heap, and he was great, and of course Dennis Pitter, Ed Dixon, and now Mark Andrews. But with receivers, it's been an issue for a really long time now. And it's a mix of things. It's a mix of the lack of investment that they put into the position, but really the lack of emphasis they put on the passing game. Ravens are an old school sort of football team to
Yeah.
where they want to run that ball, and they're gonna run the ball, and obviously they've been running it at historic rates. We all remember 2019 how they just literally ran through most of the NFL, and then in the playoffs they obviously got stopped. But that it's just been their philosophy: run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and play good defense. And in their first Super Bowl, in 2000. It worked. That was it. A running ball played great defense. They played historic defense in that Super Bowl. But in the second Super Bowl, uh, with Joe Flacco, they that wasn't it. They did run the ball, but they had to have a legitimate passing game, and they did. And they had Anquan Bolden, who's probably one of their best receivers ever. But they traded for him from the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Um, and it just shows even back then how important it is to be able to have a passing game too, and really put emphasis on the passing game and on quality wide receivers too. So it's been, but besides Anquan Bolden, usually the Ravens would just get cast offs from other teams. They signed a washed up Hushman Zada. They Steve Smith Sr. When he was like 35, and his first year went good, but then the injuries just start piling up. Um, they signed Derek Mason. He was older. They just they signed a lot of again a lot of cast offs and whatnot. But they don't go for those premier quality guys. But again, it's not a position that they put so much emphasis in anyway. So I think that's part of the reason why they don't go for the best of the best when it comes to the receiver position. So with Lamar, it's been a lot of the same thing. And invest in the tight ends heavy, invest in the running game. And Lamar has been asked to do a lot more than a lot of quarterbacks, and it's unfortunate to see, but that is one of the big reasons why I feel like he definitely deserves his bread, because he's consistently asked to be, hey Ravens, hey Lamar, we need you to be our leading passer, and obviously because he's the quarterback, so he's going to be leading the pass. But hey, also Lamar, we need you to also be our leading rusher. We're going to have you do that too. And it's like, whoa, hold up now. And in my opinion, I don't think it should be that way. Not saying that Lamar shouldn't run, because he should still obviously do what he does. But it shouldn't. It should be a lot less design runs. But back to the receivers, it should be. I feel like they need to put more emphasis on their passing game. Now, you brought up Hollywood. In Hollywood, he has been the Ravens' number one receiver for the past couple of years. But really for the past 2 years, he's wanted to be traded. And he said it wasn't a problem with the quantity, because I know a lot of people they've heard different comments and stuff from Hollywood Brown on his time with the Ravens. And the first thing a lot of people bring up, oh man, he always had a lot of targets. Like even last year, he was top 10 in targets. But he said it's never been an issue with quantity of targets, but it's been an issue with quality, and that's with the quality of the offense. He is not a fan of Greg Roman and that type of offense, and he's coming up in contract time, and he's got contracts are no secret. Debo Samuel was drafted in 2019. DK Metcalf was drafted in 2019. I think wasn't Terry McLaurin in 2019 too?
Yes, sir. Third round pick. AJ Brown. That draft.
Oh yeah, AJ. That's another one. AJ Brown. Forgot all about him. So all those guys drafted in 2019, and while they weren't first round picks, but they all getting their bread. And Hollywood, you got to realize oh man, these dudes getting paid. But I'm over here in a run first offense, and an offense that really just ain't bringing out my full potential. So you know what, I want out.
Right.
So I understood why he wanted out. And now he's in a pass first offense over there with the Cardinals. He's with another quarterback that he's really familiar with in Kyler Murray. He'll get a lot of opportunity, especially early on in the season with DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 games. And then once DeAndre Hopkins comes back, it should make it easier for Hollywood, because a lot of attention will be going to DeAndre Hopkins. So we'll see how that works out. I think he's going to do good over there. But with him, he just wanted out. He wanted out because it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit. And if he would have stayed with the Ravens, I would have loved it. But it just, for him as a businessman, is trying to get paid. It's better for him to go somewhere else where he can really capitalize on a pass first offense, because that'll maximize his earnings.
Yeah. And when you put it like that, that is very understanding as to why you would want out. I don't blame him at all for it. But what I will say is, yeah, you weren't in a pass first, offense in a way that showcased your speed. But there were times when Hollywood Browns had a case of the drops,
Mm-hmm.
countless times. So although it wasn't a pass first offense, he also had some issues. A part of why it didn't work out in Baltimore. Now you talk about Lamar Jackson and getting that bag that he so rightfully deserves. I will second that any day of the week. He deserves his money, man. How is that? Is there any update on that? Is he? How do you feel about Lamar as far as is he going to get it before the season starts, or is he going to bet on himself, play through this season, and to maximize it even more after the season? Is there? How do you feel about that as of today?
Mm. I don't even know what's gonna happen right now. Lamar, especially with no agent, it's been working out for him wonderfully because there's not a lot of stuff that gets talked about as far as the contract. Well, it's a lot of stuff that gets talked about, but there's no like specific detailed information that gets talked about. I mean, there was a report that came out a couple of days ago saying that the Ravens offered him more than Kyler Murray, but the report said it wasn't all guaranteed money. So I mean, we'll see. But he said that he wants the deal done by week 1. Week 1 is literally right around the corner, and I mean, a lot of times when it comes to deadlines can spark action. When teams and the player when they really want to make it happen, if both of them come in correct, then hey, maybe they will make it happen. But if not, then this thing could get really, really, really ugly, man. If it has to end up going the franchise tag route, I think that's a recipe for disaster, man. Because in my opinion, if you franchise tag your quarterback, or really if you franchise tag any player, that's essentially saying, hey, you need to prove it. You need to prove to us why we should pay you. Because you see, it's a lot of times when players they at the end of their deals, and boom, all right, we're gonna franchise tag this player. So yeah, we're not sure about signing him to a long-term deal yet. And sometimes people say, hey, well, the franchise tag it can buy out some more time until you can come to a contract agreement, and it can. But if this player was like really like that, and this player is proving themselves to you, and you really believe in them, then that franchise tag, in my opinion, it shouldn't even be a thing. So I hope it doesn't get to that, because I just that would make it even more likely that they could end up being a possible split. Because again, if the Ravens aren't going to come correct with the bread, then Lamar Jackson and his people, they're not going to settle. They're not going to just settle for any contract. They're not just going to, because if they were going to settle for any contract, they would have had a contract done by now. So, and it's important for him not to settle. It's important for him to make sure that he gets the money that he feels he deserves, especially with the quarterback market being what it is. I mean, I know Washington. Y'all see what happened with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Franchise tags, and then and then that split. If a team doesn't believe in you like that, then hey, that's how it is. And especially like with a quarterback, with a quarterback that has it's crazy, man. It's crazy how so much can change so fast. Because I remember he first burst on the scene, RG3. I think his very first game was against the Saints. I think
Yeah,
it was against.
2012, week 1.
Yeah. And I remember him doing his thing in that game, and then he burst onto the scene quick, man. It's like, oh, this dude, real deal, man. And then in that Ravens game against Washington, with Lodinata hit RG3's leg, and then that just changed everything, man. Then Kirk Cousins came and won the game in overtime. I was a little annoyed, but at the end of that year, it ended up being worth it. But anyway, things could change so quickly, and teams know it's a business, so they are not necessarily loyal. So and stuff happens where teams end up moving on, even from franchise players. So I just hope that doesn't end up being the case. I hope the Ravens can come to an agreement with Lamar, because he is the Baltimore Ravens. I know a lot of people, they tend to say, "Oh man," a lot of like Ravens fans, they give Lamar too much praise and too much credit for the Baltimore Ravens. But while he obviously isn't the only Raven, he is the most important Baltimore Raven player on the team. Because bottom line, when Lamar is out there, usually they win. They do a lot of winning when Lamar is out there. When he's not out there, usually they lose. They do a lot of losing when he's not on the field. So his impact, he impacts the offense, obviously, but that also impacts the defense. So it's important that the Ravens recognize exactly just how special he is, and they get it done and they make it happen. Because if not, what they won't pay, what they won't do, somebody else will. So it's important that they get it right.
For sure, man. And you talked about the Kirk Cousins thing. I mean, we know the franchise tag all too well. I mean, Bruce Allen handled that situation so poorly with Kirk Cousins, and as of recent, our All-Pro right guard Brandon Sheriff,
Oh yeah.
franchise tagged him multiple times. And as for him, he got his bread. I mean, he handcuffed us. We allowed him to run us up of money year in and year out on the franchise tag, and then he dipped on us, went to Jacksonville, and got even more money. So, hey, I'm not mad at him at all because we allowed him to have that kind of what's the word I'm looking here for? Like that kind of option, I guess you would say. We put ourselves in that situation for him to do that. So we know that all too well.
Yeah.
You talk about Lamar Jackson and him how successful he is with you guys on the field, and I would venture to say, man, it's so weird, not seeing the Ravens in the playoffs, because I got accustomed to you guys being there. So last year, you guys not being in the dance, it was kind of weird. And I say Lamar Jackson doesn't get hurt, I will very well think you guys, get into the dance, man. I mean, you go back to that Packers game. Tyler Huntley, God bless his heart, tried. He tried. But
Yeah.
again, I think if you have Lamar Jackson, you win that game. Down the stretch of the season, you win that game. But I think honestly, you guys have a class, organization. Eric DeCosta, one of the best GMs in the NFL. I mean, like, how blessed are you guys to go from Ozzie Newsome to Eric DeCosta, man? Like that's amazing right there. Am I right? I think you're gonna get it done. I really do. Um, John Harbaugh, one of the best head coaches in football. I really think you're going to get it done. Now, I don't know if it's going to be before week one, but like you said, when you press the issue and deadlines come up, that's when action happens. So there's a chance that it very well happens, but at some point, I think it's going to happen, and you guys are going to be happy about it, obviously, because who doesn't like Lamar Jackson? I mean, obviously, at the beginning of his tenure, you had them fans on the other side of the spectrum, but now I'm pretty sure 99.9% of you guys' fan base love Lamar Jackson and would trade him for the world. So I think at some point you guys will get it done. Now week one, you guys are facing Joe Flacco. Am I right? Jets, right?
Yeah, most likely. That's what it's looking like right now. Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco will be more likely than not facing his old team week one. How are you feeling about that? And does Joe Flacco still have some left in the tank?
Oh yeah, I definitely think he does. That game, I think that game could be sneaky dangerous, a dangerous type of team to play. Joe Flacco being their quarterback, he doesn't have nothing to lose, and he has nothing to prove. More dangerous because it's not like he's like no, he's in what is this his year 14 for him because he came in 2008. Um, franchise quarterback. Well, unless he takes a little Tom Brady route, so that could happen, I guess. But it ain't like he's gonna be the franchise quarterback. So he's not playing for the future anything. I can say he's got nothing to prove. Now of course him against his old team, there's gonna be not necessarily even a sour taste because they ended on good terms. Flacco knew what time part of that because the Ravens they had Steve McNair, they had Troy Smith, and we know the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But now and then with Lamar, he was on the flip side of that. With him, I'm sure he would love. I'm sure he's gonna love just to go up against him to the game and whatnot. So yeah, I think it could be. I think it could end up being a really good game. I do not think. I mean, I hope it go out like a lot of people are. Win by like 10 or more. I
Yeah.
think it'll be like like 38-4. I mean, I was about to say the 4. Something like I don't think it's gonna be. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be. Don't think it'd be that, but I think it should be a really.
Yeah. So the Jets, man. It was unfortunate to see Zach Wilson go down because I
Mm-hmm.
actually thought that they had a really solid offseason and draft. I mean, that
Oh
roster
yeah.
is coming along. I mean, they got Sauce Gardner. They got Jermaine Johnson. They got some offensive weapons and Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. They just drafted another running back, Brees. I can't forget his name, but another running back. They got Corey Davis still. So that team, yeah, it may still be young. And I don't think they're in a situation where they're ready to compete. But in a few years, you may look up and the Jets may finally stop being the laughing stock of the NFL at some point. Robert Sala has that team, on the right track. And it's gonna be fun. And Joe Flacco, as good as that situation ended in Baltimore, he ain't gonna have no better feeling but to try to beat you guys. And he's gonna be happy to do that. So he's gonna be trying and everything to beat them Baltimore Ravens. Is it in New York or is it in MNT?
Yeah, it is.
In New York? Okay.
No, yes, yeah.
So he definitely is going to try to do that. So I want to quickly talk, and I'm glad I'm finally getting able to. So Wing Martindale, former defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. I need to know
Yep.
one about how do you feel about the departure? Were you a big fan of Wink? And now, what should I expect? Obviously, the blitzing and whatnot, but more in depth, more in depth of what I should expect. Because now he's the defensive coordinator of the Giants, and we facing the Giants 2 times a year. So, talk a little bit about good old Wink, man.
That offensive line is right. Because Wink, yeah, he'll blitz anybody from anywhere. Extremely aggressive. Uh, but sometimes with Wink, there could be this lack of balance. Um, Wink was he's a coach that about him. But there can again this ain't nothing because he's not with the Ravens anymore. We said this even before. Like he'll blitz, say, all right, cool. He'll still keep on blitzing. It's like, all right, he's still trying. All right, cool. But the team, they are phasing him. He'll continue to do it. And what that can do, it can leave guys on islands. It can make it can just expose guys. And it just there tends to be there can be an arrogance or stubbornness in his method of coaching. And it can be the same way with Greg Roman and Harbaugh as well. They can tend to have this arrogance in their coaching style, and there needs to be more adjustments because a lot of times there can be a lack of, and that can backfire. So with Wink, he's not a bad defensive coordinator, but if he can just do a little bit of fine tuning in the adjustment department and like realizing and one of the things that always stuck out to me, and it was like funny and sad at the same time. Remember whenever the Ravens would play the Chiefs recently, with Wink as defensive coordinator, the like whether it was like on ESPN, whatever network it was on, they would always show this statistic: Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz, and even Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz in the NFL, but Patrick Mahomes versus when the Ravens blitz, and it would show like he had like this crazy high completion percentage, and his crazy high touchdown to interception ratio, beautiful numbers. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I know if we have that information, then the Ravens got that information. There's no way that they ain't got that information. If we as fans, we got it. But he would continue to blitz and put guys in one-on-one situations, and it just backfired so much. And it's like, man, what is going on? So if he could just do more responsible blitzing, that would probably be the best way I can put it. And not to say, oh, be scared of any quarterback or any team. Nah, ain't nothing like that. But just recognize what's going on in the game. Another thing too was, especially last year, the Ravens lost everybody, like the whole team, offense, defense, so everybody was hurt. But specifically with defense, you lost Marcus Peters before the season even started. You lost Marlon Humphrey toward the middle/end of the season. And you lost Anthony Averett, who he had been starting at cornerback. You lost him too. So you lost your top three corners. And throughout there, you lost some other cornerbacks in between. But Wink would treat the games as if he had the top corners playing, and that was, and it's like a gift and a curse, because some people could look at it like, hey, that's him saying that he trusts his guys, that he trusts the cornerbacks, that he trusts the inexperienced, the young guys to be on those islands and whatnot. So that's a good thing. It's him putting confidence in the players. Well, it could be translated as that, but at the same time, it also could put those players in bad situations, and almost take away from their confidence. Because there will be times when, again, lack of adjustments. There will be times when cornerbacks were struggling. Even when Marlon Humphrey was still playing, there were times when he was struggling, or even Anthony Averett, when he was still playing before he got hurt, there were times when he was struggling, but Wink would just continue to have him on islands. No safety over the top, no help, and it'd be like, what is going on? Why does he keep having him be put in these situations? It's not working. So that would be kind of frustrating. So hopefully this year, moving forward, for the Giants, he can really do a better job of just recognizing the personnel, recognizing their strengths, but also recognizing their weaknesses, and really just trying to put them in positions so they can have success.
Well, for my sake, Mr. Engraven, I hope all the bad stuff you talked about continues for us, because the Giants, okay? You know what I'm saying? But no, I appreciate that about Wink, because I mean, obviously the first thing you know is, yeah, he blitz a lot, but you want to know other things about him, and what can you do to counteract the blitz and stuff like that. What's the pros and cons of the blitz? So I appreciate you for breaking that down, man.
And one last thing too, about Wink. Guys are asked to do a lot in his defense. And again, depending on how you look at it, you can look at it like, hey, well, he's giving different guys a lot of different responsibilities, so that's great. But at the same time, it can mess with your rhythm. With Wink's defense, there will be pass rushers, guys that specialize in pass rushing. Sometimes they'll have them drop back in coverage. And guys have been open about it before too. I know specifically Yannick Ngakoue. He brought out a really good point, because a lot of times I forget that the Ravens had traded for Yannick Ngakoue a couple years ago. But he brought up a really good point about the defense, saying that it's hard to get into a rhythm, because one, you could be rushing a passer, and then he'll take you off the field to get somebody else in there to keep a fresh rotation. But at the same time, if you are rushing the passer, you're starting to get a feel for this offensive lineman, what he's good at, what he's not good at, what he struggles with against you, and what he's having success with against you. And you can start to sort of figure out, all right, this is what I need to do to get the best of him. But if you keep having to be taken off the field, then that can take away from your consistency. So that can kind of mess you up. And then when you also have to drop back and not be rushing the passer as a pass rusher, that can kind of mess with it too. So we'll see how he does with the Giants.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, again, for our sake, man, you know, we can handle that, and all the bad stuff continues to happen. Now we're almost ready to wrap it up here. But I just want to double back on Saturday's game because we didn't talk much about it, just because I mean again it's not really much to talk about. It'll be different if this was the first preseason game and our starters were playing. But again, nobody's starters really playing. But of course, we're gonna watch this because we know our rosters from front end to back end. We got a couple players that are fighting for roster spots. One of my favorites, Jared Patterson, man, from Prince George's County, Maryland, the guy that made the roster last year, because I want to say he had a really, really good game versus the Ravens in the preseason. It wasn't a lot of good for that game for us. You guys blew us out, and two, you guys had a lot of injuries, and I want to apologize on our behalf, man. FedEx Field is terrible. We're trying to change the field and the turf, but you guys had so many injuries at that stadium last year. And
Oh
then
yeah, that was week 3. Yeah.
yeah, and then the history of that field is just a lot of injuries. So again, I'm hoping none of that happens this Saturday. But Jared Patterson was a guy for us that had a really, really good game for you against you guys last year, and I think that was a big reason as to why he made the roster. So I'm hoping for a lot of success for both teams this Saturday. And more importantly, we get out of there with health. So, Mr. Raven Vids, man, I appreciate you for taking your time out your morning to join the show. Any last words you have for the viewers out there, and let them know where you can find you.
No, yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. Yeah, if they want to come through, it's Engraving Viz. That's the YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, everything is Engraving Viz. Facebook as well. And again, like we talked about early on, it's team keep it clean, so everybody's welcome. Old, young, mother, father, brother, sister, whatever. Everybody's welcome. No matter what team you're a fan of, because we have a lot of fun on there. We just chill. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and just try to make sure that people know that they appreciate it when they come through. So, thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Of course, man. So I appreciate you again for coming on. All the links down below to Engraving Vids and Engraving's channel, and links will be in the description of this video. So as always, it's been your boy Juan Gotti. Like, comment, subscribe. Hail to the Washington Commanders. I'm out. Peace. Cross me one time, that's gonna get you pop, get you driving.